Alright, so today we're going to do my gluten-free recipe, which is pretty much the same as my regular recipe, except we're using just a basic store-bought gluten-free flour substitute. Yeast, put in my water, 1 cup of 110 degree water, and sugar, feed that yeast. And then our fats can go in with the yeast, they're not going to hurt anything. And my butter, I do 4 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of corn oil. So we're going to wait about 5 minutes. We're going to let that yeast bloom. It's going to get all foamy on top, and then we will go ahead and add our dry ingredients. Alright, as you can see in there, the yeast has had a chance to foam up. It's doing its thing in there. Now I had whisked it right before I let it sit. I forgot to mention that before. You want to kind of mix that sugar and yeast around to get everything to dissolve a little bit. But that's been about 5 minutes and that's ready to go. So now I'm going to add my dry ingredients to my wet ingredients. It's that gluten-free flour. I put my salt right in there so I can kind of mix it in a little bit and get it dispersed around as it goes into the bowl. That's going to just go right in to the wet. Nice. And okay, we're going to check the time here. 1:05. We're going to see how long this takes. I think it's about 1.5 minutes. So here we go. Okay, so you can see that's nearly come together as a ball. The gluten-free one doesn't stick together quite as well. We've been going for just about, I want to say about 1.5 minutes now. And you got a nice shaggy dough there. Kind of breaks apart pretty easy. It's not real stretchy like your regular dough or a Neapolitan dough is going to be. But there you go. It doesn't really, you don't have to beat it to death. That is exactly what you want, like that. And we're just going to pack that into a ball, put it in a bowl, and let it rise for a few hours, and we'll come back here in just a little bit. Okay, so I sprayed my container here. You can use Tupperware or whatever, it's fine. I'm just going to take my dough out of the mixer and put it in this oiled container and put a lid on it, and I'm just going to leave it at room temperature for a few hours, and we'll come back to it. Alright, so I let this rise for about half the day. That's about the minimum I would say to do. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut this into 6.5 ounce portions, put them into oiled pans. It's not going to be like the more biscuit-like crusts that you get from bar pizza. It's going to be more like the crackery ones, the slightly thinner ones. They just don't rise as much, but they taste exactly the same. So we're going to cut these to 6.5 ounce portions, somewhere thereabouts. And close enough, somewhere between like 6 and 6.5 usually. There we go. And I use corn oil in my pans. You can substitute a lot of different oils, canola, vegetable, safflower, sunflower oil, any of those will be fine. You just don't want to go with the lower smoke point oils like olive oil. You'll find it'll stick to your pan more, especially if you're using aluminum pans, and it'll burn and it'll give you an acrid, kind of an acrid taste. You want to go with the oils I listed are more of your higher smoke points, and you'll find that the pizzas will just slide right out of the pan, and you'll see that in a little bit here. So I put about 2 teaspoons of oil in each pan. It really helps to brown up the bottom of the crust, and that's really what you're after, you know. And these do not pan out anything like the regular dough. It really is, you have to press them out. It just doesn't stretch. So it's a little bit more labor intensive to get your gluten-free crust, but when you're eating a bar pizza that's gluten-free, and it's well worth it, and it tastes delicious. So I'm gonna work this the rest of the way out, and mostly it's not about stretching because it just doesn't stretch, it tears. It's about pressing down until you get an even layer. So I'm going to continue to do that until I get a nice even layer that goes all the way to the edge. And it'll split, and you just push it back together like this. So we got these panned out, and it takes a little bit longer, a little bit more muscle goes into doing the gluten-frees than the regular ones. But if you look at them, like, you can see they've got some cracks in them. You can fuss about it like my wife did and make it look really nice like that. It takes a little while. Or if you leave those splits, the sauce and cheese is going to glue all that together, and it's going to be fine. I don't like to push I don't like to push up a ridge on the edge. You can do that if you want to, like the Linwood or whatever, but I'm kind of a spa guy, so here we go. This is our pizza's panned out. It looks super thin, and it really is more about pressing down. Like, you can use your knuckles, but it's more about pressing the dough down than stretching it out with the gluten-free, because the gluten-free just is not elastic at all. It will not stretch, it'll just tear. So you want to push down. So if you got a crack like that, just give it a shove. Push down the tall areas or the thicker areas next to it, and you can close them up. Here's another good example. Get a crack there. Just push down right next to it, and it'll close it up. So we're going to jump right into saucing and cheesing these. I got the sauce we made earlier, and I like this is a 3-ounce ladle, or 1/3 cup-ish, and I like to go right. I like a really saucy pizza, but I like to go right up to the edge, so you get that nice burnt edge and the laced edge. And just take the front of the ladle and just kind of rub it against the side there. And that sauce is going to all run down alongside of the crust there and give you that awesome edge. Now in these pans, these are the Bay State Restaurant Products pans. These are the steel ones, and this is the ones that the restaurants all use that I worked at. They are so slick that what's going to happen with the gluten-free crust is it's actually going to shrink up and pull away from the edges a little bit, and that's fine. Even the regular crust that I make shrinks away from the edge a little bit when it cooks, but you can literally take the pan and shake it like this, and you can watch the pizza float in it. It's so super slick. So I swear by these pans. I think they're really fantastic. So I have American Metalcraft ones, which are identical to the Lloyd's, and I've tried them. The Lloyd's I had really good luck with. American Metalcraft are about comparable to the Lloyd's, a little less expensive, but the same material. And but like I said, these ones are actually the best pans out of your choices, and they're actually the least expensive ones by a pretty good margin. So you can get these at Bay State Restaurant Products in Brockton. Talk to Bobby Owens, really nice guy. Been supplying all these restaurants for years. I think since the 40s or 50s. I want to say the 50s at least. So they're kind of the go-to for the Brockton area for all these bar pizza places. So again, just push that sauce all the way up to the edge. And that's it. I mean, you're not going to get too much sauce against the edge, because what happens with pizzas when they cook is all your toppings and all your cheese kind of gravitates towards the center. So really pushing it out to the edge is not going to hurt anything. And then I'll just go ahead and jump right in showing you some cheese here. I do a pretty large handful, and I get pretty good sized hands, so maybe 2 really small handfuls for people with small hands. And give it a little bump, and then any like that. You don't want to push it and like rub it. You just want to like kind of brush it to the edge. Otherwise, you end up rolling it in the sauce and kind of making just a giant mess. And there you go. That's a pretty standard amount of cheese. I see a lot of places doing lighter than that. That's about how we like them. Okay, so I preheated my oven to 500 convection. If you have a non-convection oven, it's probably going to take you a little bit longer to bake them. I preheated this for about an hour because I have some tiles in there that I'm using as pizza stones. They're 12 by 12 by ½ inch thick black granite tiles that I got at Lowe's for like $4 and change. I don't even think they were $5 a piece. And they fit perfectly in a home oven. I put 4 of them in there. They did crack. I want to find some thicker tiles, but that'll work in a pinch, and you can run down the street and get them. So for under $20. So here we go. You can see I kind of space my racks evenly, and you can see I've got my pizza stones in there. I kind of got to piece them together when I put them in there, but it'll work just fine. And we're going to put them right on those hot stones. If the stones are not preheated, your bottom of your pizza will not brown up. The stones will actually stay cool for quite a while, and they will prevent your bottom from baking more than if you just were to put the pan straight on the rack. So regular pizzas and the gluten-frees, I run about 12 minutes and then I check them. If I lift them up and they're not golden on the bottom, I'll take them out of the pan and slide them back in on the stones. So we'll show you that in just a minute here. I'm going to pull these out. They look great. So you can kind of see, grab a rag here real quick. You can kind of see that these things will actually just kind of float around in the pan. These pans are so crazy slick. I really swear by these things. They're amazing. So I usually pull them out two at a time, set them up there so the other two are still browning a little bit as I'm getting these out of the pans. So I kind of go a little bit towards one side from the middle, and if you look at the bottom of that, that one's still a little pale in the middle, so we'll go ahead and shoot that back onto the stones. Just give it a little flip like that, and then pull this one out. These are the same pizza, and this is my famous chuck, which my whole family loves, and every one of my neighbors. So all four of us have chucks tonight. It's kind of fun. So now those on the stones are going to brown up pretty quickly on the bottom. So you want to get those out of there within a minute or two, or they'll get too brown and too firm on the bottom. And this is always kind of a funny little function to get these out of here. Yeah, these are all going to be a little soft in the middle because this pizza has, I think, 5 different toppings on it. And the more toppings you have, the wetter they're going to be. So the longer you're going to want to bake them, and the longer you're going to want to leave them in the pan before you pull them out and throw them on the stones, because they will literally just flop and disintegrate on you if you try and take them off too early. So put those in there. We'll let those go for, I'm going to give them about a minute, and I'll pull the first ones out that I set back in there. All right, I'm going to snag these out of here. They've been in there for a little over a minute probably. If they get stuck to the stone, just give it a little scrape. And that looks pretty good. That's my gluten-free pizza there. It doesn't look any different than the regular one. And honestly, it doesn't taste any different. The texture is just a different, it's a little firmer crust, but the taste is exactly the same because it's the same recipe. So we'll go ahead and slide these onto. So these parchment squares I got at the grocery store, and the plates I actually got at Costco. I know everybody uses the Save-A-Day ones, but that's those things are available at Costco. I bought a bundle of them that was like, how many was in there? 200 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
And it really wasn't that expensive, so I would recommend maybe checking Costco. Sometimes they have stuff, sometimes they don't. But there you go. That's the chuck. Now, if you want to look below the video in the description, you will find the recipe for this. I'll put my whole recipe on there, and if you go to Todzilla's South Shore Bar Pizza Project on Facebook, you'll find links to all of my instructional videos, Wicked Mr. Zilla on YouTube, and you'll find all of my videos about a whole bunch of stuff, everything pizza to trucks in there. So there you go.
And smile, and we smile, and we smile. Happy bats.
Are you ready?
And we smile.
Think holistic thoughts. All right, you ready?